Thank you for doing this. I know that you're the busiest man in Hollywood, and you always have been. And you wear so many hats. What do you like to do most? Do you like producing, directing, acting? What's first in your heart?
I like women mostly, but you got to audition sometimes.
So acting.
Yeah, right. Yeah, there you go. That too. People ask me this question when you grow up in a by any means necessary filmmaking family, you learn a little about everything, right? Directing, acting, and it's only later because when you do it in a sort of indie film microcosm, you have to be aware of all the other jobs that exist in the world. So you know a little bit about editing and set design, and it's only later that someone says, "Oh, these are actually different career paths." And so I sort of grew up doing it with the family dough, and it's been good for me to be diverse because I can get in where I fit in, and I like playing with the other kids on the block, so I don't like to just do everything myself all the time. So when I'm, for example, in Ali, Michael Mann's directing, and Will Smith is playing Muhammad Ali, and I'm just playing Malcolm, and that's fine, and that's plenty. And then you have a film like Badass where I'm playing my father, and I wrote the screenplay, co-wrote it with a buddy of mine, and I'm directing it and producing it, and that too is fine. So it just depends on what's needed. Sometimes I write and I don't direct. Sometimes I act and I don't do catering. You know.
Well, I've heard your catering is off the wall.
You don't want me to do the catering if you can avoid it. But if necessary, I'll make a mean sandwich.
But I think all of those things add into making you a better director and a better actor by understanding all those jobs.
Yeah, I think also true. I think it's kind of like one of the best roles I've ever played was being a parent. And one of the next best roles is being a son. And those made me, I think a better human being and in a way a better filmmaker. So I'll give you a case in point. I just did the Salt and Pepper movie, and I'm just directing it. I play a little role in it. But I'm able to use my skill set as an actor to communicate with the actors because I speak actor. I'm able to use my music sensibilities. The more that your job utilizes all of that which you are, the more you feel fulfilled by your work. And I always say there are three loves in life: love what you do, love and enjoy hopefully the folks you do it with, and love what you say with it, i.e. bring consciousness through that work. And as a creative cat, I get to do that. I get to hopefully entertain people and make them think, make America think again.
And that's what we should be doing. But I also think it makes it more interesting when you can be able to hop around and do other things. It makes the whole job better.
Yeah, it's kind of like being imagine a conductor who has experience with the strings and with the percussions and with wind, and now he's conducting, but he can not only tell you, what he wants or to hear, but how you can help get there and what that looks like. So it's got a different know-how and experience, empathy, if you will, from coming from someone who is a patient and a doctor. I'm having a lot of fun with metaphor today.
And you're great at it. I would come up with a metaphor for what you're doing, but it would be redundant.
Right. Well, right now, cameraman. I'm clearly not the makeup artist, but cameraman right now.
Yeah, and you found what we call the sweet spot. The light is hitting you just perfectly. So.
Okay. So there you go. Thank you.
But then again, you glow anyway.
We're going to stay in this interview for a while. Who am I arguing with you?
Let's talk about A Clear Shot, because it's an intense movie. I mean, there's like 3 movies in this one movie. I mean, there's a lot of subplots going on. It's very well written. How did you find the film?
A buddy of mine who I'd done a movie with, I did a film called Armed about they say nothing stops a man with a bad guy with a gun like a good guy with a gun, and I play a good guy with too many guns and armed and a sort of skewed sense of reality. But he's a good guy. And my producer on that was a guy named Justin Nesbitt. And Justin had introduced me to the director, Nick Leisure. And Nick just seemed like he was a first-time director, but he seemed like a good guy with heart. And he, seemed like he could do the hard work, and I could get in there and just act and do that, and maybe do something that I find interesting. And it's what an interesting time to play a character who's a hostage negotiator. We say that in my career, I've played many police officers, a lot of cops. And sometimes we hear, well, there's the one bad apple, there's the two bad apples. And I've gotten to work with some really good cops. So I guess I've gotten to work with the good apples as far as I knew. You think about if you fly an airplane and you're flying on, the Virgin Airlines, and the guy crashes and they say, well, we have one bad apple. We have a few bad apples. You're like, there's certain jobs where, as Chris Rock says, you don't want any bad apples,
Yeah.
If you go to that heart surgeon and they go, well, he left a clamp inside your body, but, we got a couple bad apples. Yeah. You can't have bad apples that are surgeons. You can't have bad apples that are airline pilots. And being a police officer is a very powerful job where you can take away someone's life and their liberty. That's a big. You can't afford a lot of bad apples. Though it's an interesting thing because I think the guy that stood on Floyd's neck, that put his knee on Floyd's neck, had 18 hits against him as being someone that was excessively using force. 18. Now, that's, other than being a priest, I can't think of as many places where you can F up and get reassigned. Come on, man. 18? I mean, I thought it was 3 strikes, but, we wouldn't accept that in an airline pilot. I wouldn't go to a restaurant and let them F up my food 18 times.
18 times.
I go, yo, dude, come on, man. We got to switch it up, right? You need a new management. So I think there's a lot to do. All that said, in terms of the role that I was playing in Clear Shot, a hostage negotiator that has to work with and between the good apples, the overzealous, not so good apples, and the downright bad apples on one side, and the hostage and the hostage takers on the other side. So here I am as the guy that's sort of the guy in the middle. I've got the cops and some bad apples on that side, and some good apples, of course, which is the predominant, mostly good apples. And then I've got these poor disenfranchised people of color who are going about something the wrong way and taking hostages in a real life situation. In this case, they're Vietnamese people of color. And I've got to go in there, my character's got to go in there and get them to de-escalate. And he, in essence, has to be what we need right now in office. We need a healer in chief. And right now, Colonel Marmalade ain't cutting it. Where you need someone who can go in and say, look, these are our commonalities in human beings. We don't need to fan the flames of our differences. We don't need people agitating and trying to get people to take peaceful protests and escalate them into riots. And now they're finding out that some of these people that were looting and rioting and encouraging it were from the far right. You got knuckleheads on the far left and right. But, so I play a guy who's got to walk in there and knowing that he's probably going to lose some people, that you can't save everybody. There's going to be knuckleheads on this side and knuckleheads on that side, but there's going to be a lot of people that you can talk sense to. And I thought, what an interesting character that cannot pull a gun, but has to rely on his people skills and diplomacy. And there's my answer. That's why I wanted to do this character. And I thought to go in there and say, my experience as an American of color in this wonderful country of ours has been, yes, there are 2 Americas. There's a different treatment for minorities, that those outside of the dominant culture, those inside the dominant culture may never understand or believe. They may never believe it until they see the video. And even then they may go, I don't know. He must have done something really wrong. Why would they kneel on his neck like that? You're going to still get a couple of those. So I play a character that's got to go in there and de-escalate it and heal. And I thought, what a good time to play a healer in chief.
Then again, taking what you're saying and looking at the guys that are taking over the electronics shop too. I mean, sometimes you got to knock loudly. Sometimes it does take, a little bit of yelling.
Yeah. Look, we had the Boston Tea Party, right? Remember that?
I was there. Yeah.
Yeah. I know you're old, but so we know that, look, Columbus discovered America, but the truth is there were already Native Americans here. So it's like me discovering your car and putting my flag on it. So
Yeah.
I can rewrite history that I'm the good guy that discovered your car, but at the end of the day, someone who really knows history is going to go, wait a minute, dude was already sitting in his car and you just kind of gangstered it, and now you're calling yourself the discoverer of America? I don't know if the Native Americans would look at history that way. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So when you really are honest about it and you really look at it, we've come a long way, but America was built by people of all colors, and yet you don't see people of all colors on the money, do you? You
No.
don't see people of all colors in the White House. Very rarely. We had it for a minute, but that's a rarity, do you? Do you know what I mean? You don't see a lot of Native Americans, and they should be more than anyone, more than you and I.
Yeah, and
So
what I get tired of is I get tired of gullibility. I think people seem to want to believe the most outrageous stuff. And when it comes at the end of the day, we're all people. We're all trying to put dinner on the table. We're all trying to put a roof over our head and scratch out a little entertainment in between.
Yeah, and here's the thing. So what I try to do, knowing that, is entertain but make edutainment. See if I can make people entertain them, but also make them think a little bit. Make America think again. So that's my sort of mission statement. Make America think a little bit. Yes, and Dr. King said, and I left to mangle a good quote. He said, "We either learn to live together as brothers and sisters, or we all perish together as fools."
Yeah.
And I add to that, now we either learn to live together as brothers and sisters in harmony with nature as well, or perish together as fools. It's no longer enough to have racial diversity. We're going to need biodiversity in a moment.
Yeah, but when did we get so stiff-necked that we can't just say, hi, I'm sorry, let's move on. Let's go get some lunch.
Totally. And I think that's one of, I feel pretty blessed in a way, in that in my own family tree, we've got everything. I've got my mom's white, my dad's black. I've got a gay aunt. I've got a Trumper in my family. I've got East Indian, Filipino. So you could throw a boomerang and you're going to hit something in my family tree, and I'll go, well, I can't, And so it leads to me to two things. One, I'm not PG. I offend everybody democratically because I'm everything, and I know I'm not supposed to do that. And two, I've got to love everybody, and you see that reflected in my film. So if I make New Jack City, I cast it openly, and my New Jack cops are going to be the female prosecutor is a black woman, and the one cop is Asian, and Judd Nelson is Jewish, and I'm in there, and Ice-T is in there, and I just paint with all the colors. And I think what you do is bring that sort of love and consciousness when you can to your workspace. Who do you bring in to work with you? Who do you mentor? I can think of so many examples where I've been able to reach across the cultural aisle, and sometimes have been greatly rewarded for it. Yeah. My ability to enjoy people that don't look like me, don't vote like me. First guy to give me a real break in this business was a tall white Republican cat named Clint Eastwood. Gave me a film to act in called Heartbreak Ridge, let me write songs for it, introduced me to Warner Brothers, where I later did New Jack City. Next guy to help me out was a tall white Republican cat named Stephen Cannell. Yeah. Dedicated his book to me, called me his Hollywood son, adopted me in many ways and mentored me in many ways, and believed in me before it was popular. Didn't vote like me, didn't look like me. Man, if you, not just to be Machiavellian about it, but if you can love and appreciate all folks, your life is so much richer.
Yeah. And you and I have the same family tree. I've got everybody in my family too, so I understand coming from that. And
exactly, you got to go, how the heck did you vote for him? But you sit down and you think it out and you listen to the logic of it. Don't just listen in your own little silo in your own little world. You already know what you know. You know what the heck you think. Find out what they're thinking and why, and then disagree with them.
Well, exactly. And for those reasons, let me ask you this. Do you prefer doing comedy over drama? Do you like making people laugh?
Laughter is very healing and a beautiful emotion. It's real, but I love drama too. I think And then I love irony. So I find in life there's humor. You know, I do uncool stuff all the time. You know, I'll go outside.
I can't think of you doing anything uncool,
Oh
Mario.
no, I do it. I was at a while ago. I was on the beach, and these two lovely young ladies came over and they wanted to take a picture. And they said, do you mind taking a picture? And I stood up and I dusted myself off, and they handed me their camera and said, okay, just push here. That's
Wow.
great. You go, wow, that's cool. You know, so you go with it. You know, so.
Are you working on New Jack City, a New Jack City?
No, I'm not. I know there's talk of them doing it. They haven't reached out to me and any for any creative thing on that. So I don't know what they're doing with it, but periodically that happens. I just finished in terms of projects I can talk about for Shizzle. I did the Salt and Pepper movie recently, and we're finishing that for Sony Lifetime. And the Cheryl and Sandy Salt and Pepper were both executive producers on it, so I got to work with them. And I'd worked with them before because they did some of the music in my film Panther, which if you haven't seen Panther, it's a hard one to get, but it's super relevant now with the whole Black Lives Matter movement. It's on the birth of the Black Panther Party for Self-Defense out of Oakland, and how people stood up under that sort of situation before there were videos, and they took down badge numbers and monitored the few of the bad apples, if you will, and then started food and breakfast programs. So they worked with me on that, and I got to do. So I'm finishing the Salt and Pepper movie, which is, you know, badass sisters, girl power, and it's going to be fun. And then I'm working on a Western that I'm trying to make COVID proof as we speak. So I've got to go through the script and figure out how I can do a movie with the right amount of social distancing and
just wrap everybody in plastic.
We put us all in bubble wrap and
or make it animated.
Right. But nature got a nice little reprieve from our species, because from nature's point of view, we're probably the virus at the end of the day anyway, right? So
I was just making this point to somebody that, you know, they're mad because they have to wear a mask. And I said, you know, years ago, I remember this when they first, you know, threw seatbelts in cars and made it mandatory that you had a seatbelt. People were angry about that. When we stopped smoking in places, people went, oh, my rights, you know. It's a safety issue, dudes.
Yeah, it is. And then, you know, it helps with bad breath. I don't feel the need to brush my teeth much.
It's not about the COVID. It's about the halitosis.
And it's good. You don't have to wear lipstick. You just put the thing on there. And so you imagine I look really great right now. You know?
You look amazing, by the way. I'm not flirting with you. I'm just saying.
I thought there was a role coming up here.
Yeah. If I could look like Mario Van Peebles, I would.
Right on, man. Someone said I look like Rock Light.
Well,
hey,
I take that too.
Yeah.
I you know, and every time I go out for a role, I usually just want the bartender role because I look like a bartender. That's what I'm told.
Right. Okay, I can see
you
that.
You can cast me.
And you know, also you're good at getting people to talk. See, bartenders and strippers are also therapists. They're therapists, man. The stuff they have to put up with and people they have to talk with, and cab drivers too.
Nobody would pay me to take off my clothes though, so no,
neither. Man.
You know, I've done this job for 50 years. I'm celebrating my 51st year as a celebrity interviewer.
Wow, that's great. And you know what's cool about your job? I like I've actually gotten to interview people. Mm-hmm. And I was so relieved that when people talk easily and they're affable, it's such a joy. I mean, I've talked to actors that go, hello, yes, no. You're like, oh man, this is gonna be, you know, this is going to be a job. But when you get people who are interesting to talk to, it's kind of like you get to ask them things that you couldn't ask them at a cocktail party. You know what I mean?
Well, you've been interviewed by.
I'm a nerd. I'm a nerd for people. Some people are a nerd for books. I'm a nerd for people. I want to know what this little old Jewish lady's thinking, and this Asian man's thinking, and that black kid over there. I want to know what different people, what makes them, what's their modus operandi? What makes them go? What do they think happens when you die? Why do they do what they do? I love that stuff.
That's because you're fueled by the spirit of people.
Yeah.
You are interested in other human beings.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, but you've also been interviewed by interviewers that have the 3x5 card and look at that rather than look at you. They don't want a conversation. They just want a soundbite. I
Right.
can't do that.
The best was I was interviewed by someone who mouths the answers. So they would ask you, they said, how did you like working on this film? And then she went, and you can, the poor guy, I was with another actor, and he got so caught up in watching her mouth the answers that he was, or the better one was, I was interviewed by a guy once, and he had a personality shift. He came into the room and he said, hi, it's Mr. Peebles. I'm looking forward to speaking. I'm quite a fan. I remember your film, the show Stunt Spoon, and your film. I said, oh, okay, good. Come on in, sit down. He said, oh, thank you. I'll sit right here. And he got his camera. I said, excuse me, is this a print interview? He said, oh, no, this will be on live television. I said, are you going to be on television with me? Oh, yes, I'm going to be on TV with you. So I set the cameras up. He set the two cameras. And then he goes, and action. All right, I'm here with Mario Van Peebles. And Mario's got a new film coming out. And for about 4 seconds, I was like, he totally flipped, man. He turned into this other dude.
Yeah, that's a character he's playing then.
And as soon as the camera went off, he said, well, that was lovely. If you don't mind saying a little something for the missus. I was like, dude, man, I was waiting for Ashton Kutcher to run out and say,
you've been punked.
Man, yeah. So anyway, you get him on my side, but I'm sure you get him on your side.
Yeah, I've had horrific interviews over you've always given me a great interview, I must say, because you've always got something interesting to say too. It's not just, you know, about a clear shot, which we should probably get back to because somebody's going to get mad. Okay. But it's also about your life. You're very open, and you have been that way for years. That you just love to chat with people.
Yeah, you know, the thing is, if you've got nothing to say, get off the mic. And it's so, like, listen to rap music. Like, good rap music, it's got a good beat, you jam to it, but it's got something to say. Bad rap music to me is like when they just talk about what they're wearing or their jewelry or what car they drive. Capitalism. Yeah. No, it's like, get on the mic. And I think for me, there was enough time I had taking subways and trying to audition that I felt if I ever made it, I would talk to everyone who wants to talk to me.
Well, you haven't left that kindness at the door. You're a very kind human being, and people who are on the set love working with you because you do treat extras and the gaffers, and you're one big family.
Thank you. And since you hit that note, I want to tell you a very short I Love Me story. I'm always clear on I Love Me story. This is a good one. I was doing Back to Panther, and there was a guy, a kid on there who was an extra. And I'd been an extra. I know what that's like. You're trying to get in the shot. You want to get an upgrade. If possible, you want to get a line and get in the union. And he was a nice guy, good-looking dude, except he had these really big, expressive eyes. And there was a scene between Bobby Seale on one side and Eldridge Cleaver on the other. And it was just after the death of Dr. King, when he'd been killed. And there were a lot of people, you know, very upset, obviously, and Eldridge says, it's time, seize the time. We got to take to the streets and get our guns, and we got to shoot up somebody and shoot up some cops. And Bobby is saying, no, man, we have these pea shooters. We have these old ass guns. We're not going to take on the National Guard, man. We're going to get killed doing that. We have the food and breakfast programs and showing the people that we can do so much with so little, which will make them wonder about a government that can do so little with so much. Our power is not in our weapons, it's in our ideology. You can't fight racism with racism. So there's big argument between the two leaders, the old rage, as they call him, and Bobby Seale. And this kid had worked himself into the middle right between the two of them. And they start to argue, and he was doing this. He would go, these big eyes. I'm like, oh my God, this guy's eyes are huge. And I said, okay, I went over. I didn't want to take him out of the scene. He worked so hard to get into the scene. And so I said to the kid, I said, listen, squint your eyes a little bit. Your eyes are so big and expressive. brother, just bring him down a little bit and look a little more like this. He said, gotcha. So I said, action. He looked like Garfield the cat, man. I said, oh. So I went back to him. I said, I'll tell you what, just look twice, just once here and once there. He did it again. It was comedic. I was like, funny. It was like, I got to do. So I said, a lot of the Panthers wore sunglasses. So put sunglasses on him. So we put sunglasses. He had this great chiseled face. And he put the sunglasses on. He looked super cool. Looked from here to here. It worked. I said, cut. It was beautiful. The kid went on to make a career with those big eyes. His name is Chris Tucker.
Wow.
And I'm so glad I was next to him. Chris, if you're out there, you need me to direct you, I'm available. I mean, can you imagine? So you never know. Even just, be nice to folks on the way up because they'd be nice to you on the way down. Or, you have ups and downs. Who knows?
Yeah, I've always said you meet the same people going up as you do coming down. So just treat everybody well.
My buddy said, I'm not treating anybody well because I don't intend to come back down. but I have fun with it, and every day I run into people who've worked with me before and were great, and then I've like I said, I've been helped by so many people myself that and I think to some degree this business magnifies whoever you are. If you're okay with yourself, it'll magnify that. If you're not okay with yourself, if you're a pain in the ass, it'll magnify that too.
Yeah, and you've dealt with a number of pains in the ass, so I mean, you forget those people. It's the goodness you remember really in your life. Right.
Although I've got a couple pain in the butt ones that are just funny too. You get those good stories, and that's because it's kind of what to do and what not to do. But that happens in life. I mean, and I think that. Back to the clear shot of it all and reaching across the aisle, I've had many examples in my life where talking to people that didn't look like me or vote like me or think like me helped me grow immensely. Now, I'm going to tell you one more little story. I was in old Montreal, Vieux Montreal, with my daughter. She was about 4 at the time. And it was cold. We came in. She was in a stroller and she had a little balloon with her. And it was a convenience store, and she needed to use the bathroom. And this guy was an Asian guy, just had this real grimacing face. He looked at us, and I just got not a good vibe from him, And I took my daughter, and I thought maybe because we have to be a customer or something, so I bought whatever I needed to buy, and then I took her to the bathroom, which is a drag when your daughter's 4 and she wants to wear the ballerina outfit because you got the tutu and the this and the stocking. Oh my, it's a hot mess. So I got to get all that off her, get it on back, get her out, cleaned up, and go out. And as we're leaving the store, my daughter looked over at me and looked at this man looking at her. And she said, "Daddy, this man doesn't like me." She's 4 years old, beautiful little black girl. And I thought, wow, that, for me to feel it is one thing, for my daughter to feel it is another. And I said, you know what? Maybe this is a teachable moment. I went over to the guy and I said, "Excuse me, sir, you have a very dour expression. I don't know if you're aware of that. And my little girl, who's just 4, thinks you don't like her. And I just wanted you to know, customers coming in and people coming in, they get an energy from a human being. That's the energy I'm getting, and that's the energy she got." And the man's expression changed. And he said, "I am so, so sorry." He said, "Look on the wall." And on the wall was a picture of him with a beautiful 18-year-old Asian girl, his daughter. He said, "That's my daughter. When my daughter was about 3 or 4, she was playing with a balloon, and she bit it by accident, and the balloon went down her throat and almost killed her. And we had 5 minutes to get that balloon out of her throat, and we had to go to the hospital, or she would have died. And when your daughter came in with that balloon, I wanted to say something, but I know people get sensitive if you tell them about rearing children. And I didn't know if I could do that. And I was worried because it reminded me of what happened to my kid." And I said, "Thank you for that." And I took the balloon from my daughter, and I said, "Thank you so much." And he smiled, and we took a picture with him, and we left. I've had so many situations like that where someone gave out a vibe, and I let them know nicely. And either they were aware of it or they weren't. And every now and then they're a pain in the ass, and every now and then they're a bigot or a racist or ism or sexism, racism, classism. And look, I was in a position of safety. I wasn't laying on the ground with a guy's knee on my neck. And I'm Mario Van Peebles. So we got to put all that in the mix too. You know what I mean? The guy didn't know who I was, but But nonetheless, there's been a lot of times when I've been able, as a communicator, like I play in a clear shot, been able to go in there and de-escalate what would have been a situation. Had I left there and not said anything, I would have said, man, that guy's, what do I make from that? Is it our color? Is it our age? What would I have taken? If I didn't do that day, if I was in a bad mood or on my cell phone, and I didn't have the time to find out what he was thinking, what would I have thought? You know, what would my life lesson be? Instead of, he had a good life lesson for us, which is don't let your kid chew on a balloon. Yeah. There's so many situations like that, dude, every day. And every day you have the opportunity to make someone smile, to reach out, to mentor someone, talk to someone in the elevator, find out how their day was, help someone with some groceries. You have the chance to do good every day. You don't have to wait till you're king of the world.
And like your character, I mean, all we try to do in this life is try to find common ground with other people. Right. And that's what you do. You communicate, but because of your training, you communicate through acting, through directing, through music. So you have many languages you speak to reach out to other people. Some people are limited with only one and a few words at that. And so we have to reach out and just try to make other people feel seen.
Right. And again, I was lucky in that I was, I'm multicultural and I've lived all over the world and, and not in a wealthy way. We shopped at Goodwill. I slept in the closet and my sister slept in the bathtub when my parents were young and we traveled through Europe. So it wasn't that we had money. But there are folks I've met who've only lived in Compton or only lived in the trailer park who were so smart and loving and reasonable. And that has something to do with one's soul, not just one's exposure sometimes in terms of cultural exposure. So sometimes you go, oh, wow, I learned things from, and I went to some pretty good schools and I've met educated fools and I've met people with very little education who are actually very, very smart. So it's a mashup, it's a mix up. But the more that we know this, the more that we connect with each other and grow from each other, the more we remind ourselves in a way of what America, not just what it was, not just in terms of make America great again, because then you have to say, well, when was it ever great for women or Native American, African American? When was it great for people of color? What grade are we going back to? Wait a minute, what was that? What are we rewind into? Tell me when that was. So, but you're fighting not just for the America we were, but the America we can be. The ideal is a beautiful ideal. There's no place where I could have done what I've done, where my family could do what they've done, other than a place like America. It's exceptional, and we, as Dr. King said, again, I'll mangle my second King quote here, is that it took Americans of all colors to build this country, and we have to take responsibility with that and pride with that, or we unconsciously want to destroy it.
Yeah.
I think, and that's why in my film, I try, in my Western, for example, you'll see people of all colors. In my new Western, if I get to make it in this COVID environment, you'll see, again, folks of all colors, that you can make great entertainment without marginalizing anyone.
We've lost a sense of humor. We've lost, kind of a way of just looking at ourselves and laughing.
Being able to make people laugh and look at things is a great thing. And I was watching something on Instagram, and a young woman was saying on Instagram, trying to help people understand. And she says, okay, we have the peaceful protest, and some people want to focus on the looting. Okay, and I get that. But when you look at the looting, you go, well, what was when the colonizers went around the world? They looted all these different countries. If I stole your stuff, and not only did I steal your stuff and chop off the heads of your Buddha statues and your Indian god and your gold, I not only looted it, I took it back to my country and let everybody know I looted it, and I charged money to come see it. I put it in a place called a museum. So in this museum, I looted your stuff. I put it in my museum. It's like, wait a minute, you guys were looting, dude. You're not an explorer. You're a freaking looter.
We have a history of pillaging and looting.
And more than that, the ugly stuff too: raping, murdering, enslaving. Do you know what I mean? So when you really look at it, you go, wow. And then, okay, now why would we be pissed off? Okay. And she had a wonderful metaphor. She said, imagine you're playing Monopoly and you play 400 years of slavery, 400 rounds of Monopoly with someone. And everything you win, you've got to give them, the guy you're playing against. You're a slave, so you've got to give them your body, your children's bodies, your wealth. Anything you win, for 400 rounds of Monopoly, you give them to the guy owning it. And they buy up all the good stuff because they've had 400 rounds using your labor. Then you get 50 or 100 years of Jim Crow. And in that, if you start to win, they burn down your stuff, like Tulsa, Oklahoma, when they burnt down Black Wall Street because Black folks were starting to get ahead, or the grandfather clause when they decided we're going to keep these brothers and sisters from owning land, so we can have a new law called the grandfather clause saying if you didn't vote, your grandfather didn't vote, you can't vote. If your grandfather didn't own land, you can't own land. So we make these unjust laws. So now you got 50 years of you get too much, we're going to take it away. And now, after 400 years of free monopoly, 50 years of jive monopoly, we're going to let you start. And we just say, why are you upset? We did it. Why can't you? I don't understand. And she at the end said, baby, you're lucky. Black people don't want revenge. They just want equality. They're not saying white lives don't matter. They're not saying Asian lives don't matter. They're saying at least let us matter too. You know, when you look at it that way, you got to go, yeah. So you got part of what you need to do is try to take complex things like systemic lookism, sexism, racism, classism, and break it down so your average folk can go, oh yeah, that would kind of piss you off, wouldn't it?
I think that's also a muscle that people don't use often is empathy, is to say, look, you know, I have a comfortable bed. What can we do to get you a comfortable bed too? You know, how do we all work together? Right, and it's beyond some people that, you know, helping, because I think it's going to take off my plate, and I don't want that. You know, we've got to realign our thinking, Mario.
Right. Yeah, we do. And I see hope of it. I mean, look at when I was out at the protest a while ago, I saw folks of all colors, you know, so I know Black folks are the target, but people of all colors are feeling the pain. You know, they're reacting to it in a way that I did not see them react to it with the uprising in '92. You know, no one rioted when they saw the Rodney King. They rioted and uprose when the verdict came back that even when you have a video, you still get a not guilty verdict. Now that's going to piss me off. The Black community has known that kind of treatment exists because it's only recently we've had these cameras, you know?
Yeah.
So we've known it for years. It's just now other folks are getting to see it and go, oh, wow, look at that. Dylan Roof shoots 9 people. They pull up. Here's interesting. He shoots 9 people. They pull up to arrest Dylan Roof. They put their guns away. Nice looking white kid. They get him out of the car. He never gets shot. He killed 9 people. Mm-hmm. You got a Black guy selling loose cigarettes. They choke him to death. You got a Black guy falling asleep in a burger place. He dies. You've got a Black woman laying in her bed in her home. And they bust in with a no-knock warrant and shoot her. I mean, come on. Hopefully people that march today will vote tomorrow. That's my hope. Hopefully people that take a knee today will vote tomorrow, and hopefully our votes will be counted. Now, it's not one person, one vote, because we don't live in a true democracy. So we know it's an electoral college, which means people who win the most votes don't always win the election. Yeah. So we have to really vote in a landslide to get someone through. But we need to. America's built on capitalism and democracy is like a car. If you take your foot off the gas, the whole car will slow down.
Well, and taking that analogy a step farther, like a car, it's got to be repaired and tinkered with all the time to keep it running and make it better.
Right.
I think you and I should host a podcast where we just...
I think, and if not, we can just create metaphors.
Yeah.
Easily.
Mark Twain once said, you know, you give a man a fish, and that's all he said, you know, and I think that makes sense.
Yeah. But then again, but then someone's polluting the stream upstream, you know, and that's the right. But and
Well,
Mark
they've
Twain
always
also,
been pissing upstream, So
Mark Twain also said, I never really had much respect for a man who could only spell a word one way.
yeah, I love his quote about when you're mad, count to 10. When you're really mad, swear. And
Right.
Mario, it's such a pleasure to talk to you and to be. I mean, this is such a great conversation. I felt like we should have coffee and
Yeah.
something to eat and just let it all out. You're an amazing conversationalist, and
Thank you, brother.
I have nothing but the highest respect for what you do and everything that you've accomplished in your life, because it isn't easy to get to where you are from where you were. I mean, I say this all the time. Show business is still an apprentice business. You have to, no matter what college you graduate, what degrees you have, you still have to start by sweeping the floor. And that's how you learn.
Yeah, and I was blessed. My dad said to me, if you're really lucky, maybe it's the mother that shows you the mountain and the father that teaches you how to climb it. Mm. My mother, gave me a great sense of, a lot of love, a lot of creative freedom, and a lot of encouragement. Took me to theater and let me audition for things. And my dad, was a radical filmmaker who could pretty much do any damn thing, from fly planes to work on Wall Street to make a movie. And I grew up lucky in that I saw a man of color who was a boss and worked with people of all colors, and he spoke multiple languages. And so I had a really cool example right there. There was a lot of young men of color, especially young brothers of color, don't grow up seeing powerful Black figures in the home, especially ones that look like them, that are male. Yeah. And I grew up, that was a great advantage. Whether I went into the same business or not, I felt I could do it if I had the skill set. I didn't think I couldn't do it because of color of my skin or whatever other ism there was out. And there's plenty of them, and there will continue to be plenty of them. So I was lucky that way. I've had a blessed life that way. And I meet people all the time who are smarter and haven't had the opportunity, or talented and haven't had the opportunity. And you've got to go, but but for the grace of God, go I. Yeah. So you've got to be graceful about it. Try to make some, art that makes people think, get some good folks in, and then get the heck off the stage.
Before I let you go, I just want to ask you one more question is, what do you think about all of this rewriting of cinema history, pulling Gone with the Wind and trying to erase things from cinema that's, maybe we should be educating ourselves and watching it and learning rather than hiding it and pretend it didn't exist?
Yeah, so that's an interesting thing. Pendulums swing. Do they swing this way and that way? Yeah, they do. I remember, and I don't know the answer on that. Here's the thing. I don't think we need to have a lot of Confederate statues. I don't. It would have. It's very hard to explain. I had a German friend over, and my granddad's from Hamburg, and he was confused. He said, "Why would you have a statue of someone that went against the Union and tried to enslave Americans? Why would you do that? Why would you glorify that?" He said, "It'd be like having a statue of Hitler in Germany. It wouldn't. It kind of doesn't. When you look at it, it doesn't really make sense. You go, well, what are we doing?" So I think we've got to look at ourselves a little bit and say, "Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, do we really need to do that?" Now, is a movie made honestly about what things were? When we had films like Gone with the Wind, the Black folks in that film were pretty much what we call the Motisa tribe, the servant class. Motisa, Mokafisa. So as long as you're adult enough to understand that those images are really classified X, that they're coming from a place of white male supremacy, that there's no one that looks like you on the dollar. There's no one looking like you that was making movies back then. There was no one like my dad who finally made Sweetback and showed Black folks winning, because it wasn't until he made Sweetback and then you had Superfly and Shaft, and whether you liked some of those movies or not, and some of those movies were not so great. And then you had Cosby on the Cosby Show. I'm not talking about the man, but the phenomenon that America could say, "Oh wow, Black people can win." And if you could win in the movies, if you could win on TV, could you win an election?
Yeah.
Could you win a presidency? Could we see the Huxtables become the Obamas? So on the one hand, I go, yeah, I love Gone with the Wind, parts of it, you know. But when I look at it with those eyes, I go, what does that say? Do you know what I mean? When I was with my daughter, let me go back to the story with my daughter. My daughter, Maya, and I went to Disneyland. Same girl. Right? Maya and I are always learning stuff together. Boy, she taught me a lot. Go to Disneyland, and Maya's with me, and she says, Dad, I'd rather be white. Beautiful, beautiful little black girl. So I'd rather be white. I said, why is that, baby? Her mother's beautiful. We're a powerful family. Well, she looks around because then I could be Snow White, I could be Cinderella, I could be Little Mermaid, and she lists off all the Disney princesses. Now, I'm not recommending that you take the Disney princesses off the wall, per se, but this was pre-Princess and the Frog.
Yeah.
And a little girl like her had no reflection of her beauty to see. I had never looked through the world through her eyes. She saw no one that said, you're beautiful. No Barbie doll that said, you're beautiful to her. I had done a Western. I was puffing my chest out. My sons thought they could be cowboys because they saw Daddy riding tall in the saddle. But when the only option is you're the black maid tightening up the dress for Scarlett O'Hara, and the only option is you're going, yes, sir, no, sir. That's an X-rated image, man.
Yeah.
When that's the only option, then it's too much.
I love the way you explain that because I've known Nichelle Nichols forever. I used to live at her house years ago, and when she said, a little girl came up to her and said, you know, there's a black lady on TV that's not a maid. You know, she's on the Starship. It meant everything to her because she grew up like that too, wondering where people look like her are.
Correct.
Thank you, Mario, for your time today. And really, what a great conversation. I just really, really enjoyed this. We got to do this in person.
I enjoyed it too, brother. Thank you. And let's pick it up. I'll find some really expensive restaurant we can go to.
Yeah, and I'll pay. So that's the good part. But if you need a bartender in the Western you're shooting, just let me know. I'll bring my own chaps.
You know what? We might have to do that. I've been known to put people say something like that, and I'll make it happen, man. So
a lifelong dream to be in a Mario Van Peebles movie. It would be
that'd be
an honor.
Fun. Yeah,
I'd have something finally to put on my gravestone.
Good. You ask good questions, and you got a good heart. So that we need that.
Well, thank you so much, and I'm glad we start this friendship. And I will catch up with you on your next film. If not, I'll see you on set.
All right, my brother. Thank you.
Thank you, brother. Talk to you later.